success is not really dependent on creativity. I think actual marketing success is incredibly scientific. It's extremely mathematical.
Hi, before we get to this week's podcast, I'd like to tell you that Automated Creative are releasing a book called How to Make It in Marketing, Volume 1. It is a collection of the best marketing career advice we've had from over 200 episodes of the Shiny New Object podcast. You'll hear from some of the biggest, brightest and best names in the industry, telling you how to grow your career. You can reserve yourself a copy at this URL. So get your pens out. It's bit.ly, so bit.ly/make it in marketing. So that's bit.ly/make it in marketing. But the make it in marketing bit is in capital letters. So bit.ly/lowercase and the rest is make it in marketing uppercase. I think you should get your heads around that and enjoy. It's a great read. Hello and welcome to the Shiny New Object podcast. My name is Tom Wallerton. I'm the founder of Automated Creative, and this is a weekly show where I interview marketing leaders about their vision for the future of the industry. And this week is no different. I'm on a call with Mihir Haryal, who is Assistant Vice President for Marketing at Apex Group. So Mihir, could you give the audience just an overview of who you are and what you do?
Thanks, Tom. Happy to be here. So essentially, I'm a true blue digital marketer for the last 10 years, having worked in the financial services space, cybersecurity, fintech, and of course in the media space, which every marketer is guilty of having worked in. I basically enjoy content writing, which is how I got into the space. And then as I've progressed along the different industries, I've been fortunate to learn from them and understand enough to be able to market them and make a good career for myself so far. So I think.
And can you give us an overview of what you do currently?
Of course. So right now I am an assistant vice president of digital marketing for the Apex Group, which is one of the world's largest financial services industry. One of the world's largest companies in financial services industry, in the sense that we have assets under management worth $3 trillion, which is larger than the GDP of a lot of countries as well. So in this role, I essentially take care of influencer marketing, where I get in touch with influencers and make sure that they have a good name for our brand and that we're able to market well to them, make good connections, and then hopefully create a better brand image.
So in the last 5 years, what new belief or behavior has had a positive impact on your career?
Well, this is actually a little controversial, but I think the fact that your office life, your work life essentially goes beyond 9 to 5 is a belief that has really improved the quality of my work life. Now, when I say this, I obviously don't mean that you need to keep overworking or deprioritize the other things in life and not maintain a balance. What I essentially mean is that when I was growing up in my career, I came across a lot of leaders whose brains, didn't really switch off after work. It's not like after 5 o'clock or 6 o'clock, whenever they shut down their laptops, they were totally detached from work. And I realized from these people, and in most cases from personal interactions, that they were really enjoying what they were doing, that they were a part of an industry, or they were at a level where while there was other things that, would be categorized as usual work BS, but they wouldn't really keep it from doing what they really enjoyed to do. So that way, it didn't really cost them much brain cells to remember what was happening at work and what would be scheduled for the next day. It essentially results in two things. First is that you're better prepared for any work-related emergency, even if it comes in a little beyond your working hours. And the best part is that you're extremely prepared the next morning because you know exactly where you left off and that your entire week is planned. So that way, then that's the way I've seen leaders do extremely well in their careers. in the last 5 years, as I've grown a little in my career as well, I've tried to utilize that advice, and it's always worked well for me.
And in your career, what has been your best marketing tip that you've received or that you give most often?
Oh, it's again, it's again a little astray from what we generally hear, but the best tip that I ever got was from one of my bosses, who incidentally happened to be a finance guy by academics. And then he got into marketing during the 2008 recession, when there weren't a lot of jobs. So, just to continue his career, he moved to marketing and was doing exceedingly well. I mean, by the time I interacted with him, he was already the CMO of 3 different companies. And again, is doing extremely well in life. So the reason I add this is so that you know that this person has tasted success. And his simple advice to me was that marketing success is not really dependent on creativity. And I think this is a misnomer that a lot of people have. They believe because they're creative, they would want to get into marketing. Because I think actual marketing success is incredibly scientific. It's extremely mathematical. And the deeper you get into it, the more mathematics comes into place. So I believe if we differentiate advertising and actual marketing, which is a more strategic function, people will be able to perform better. That's how I've also been able to kind of focus on the actual impact that work is creating, and let the data kind of narrow down the creativity and let me deliver the best results that I possibly can.
This episode of the Shiny New Object podcast is brought to you in partnership with Madfest. Whether it's live in London or streamed online to the global marketing community, you can always expect a distinctive and daring blend of fast-paced content, startup innovation pitches, and unconventional entertainment from Madfest events. You'll find me causing trouble on stage, recording live versions of this podcast, and sharing a beer with the nicest and most influential people in marketing. Check it out at www.madfestlondon.com. So we're going to move on now to your shiny new object, which is the use of AI in marketing. So that sounds pretty broad to me. So can you tell me specifically why that is your shiny new object and why you think that represents the future of the industry?
Sure, Tom. So this actually dates back to a conversation that I was having with a friend of mine about 6 months back, where this guy, again, he's somebody who spent like 10 to 15 years in the industry, has worked across a lot of different roles, and knows the marketing industry as well as business management quite in depth. He was starting his own agency. I mean, the agency was live a few months back as well, but then about 6 to 8 months back, he was really scaling it up. And then he was speaking to all of his other friends in the industry, asking for references of people that they could hire, or things that they could do, just tips like that. And then when he and I started to talk about brand, which is one of the areas that I really like to talk about. So when we were talking about that, he made a statement saying the content writing industry will essentially go extinct, and the brand managers of today will become the content writers of tomorrow. I mean, so to say that these roles will eventually merge. And that sounded very weird to me, because in all of my career, whenever we were hiring for marketing roles, we very pointedly made sure that the brand and the content people were distinct. This conversation essentially led us down a rabbit hole into describing what he meant, which was the use of AI to replace a lot of monotonous work that does come in the marketing operation. So, this could translate to letting AI write content for you. There are several marketing tools available today. I probably wouldn't want to name them right now, because that would seem like endorsement, which I don't want to. But still, there are several marketing tools which just a few words on Google search engine will let you know, which can actually write content for you. So as to saying that you put a brief in there, you let them know what tone you want, what language you want, what impact you would like to create, your call to actions, or whatever the kind of briefs that you would essentially give a copywriter, and the AI would write it for you. Of course, there is some tweaking needed to it, but then there are also tweaks needed when the copywriter does it for you. And the copywriter generally takes time, whereas the AI does it in a couple of seconds. So that is just one example of what could be. There are also applications, and that just led me to research more about this. There are also a lot of applications of AI in creating your marketing graphics, creating a lot of other things, which at least for a smaller startup or for a smaller player, makes their entire copywriting team and the design team redundant, because they can have these amazing, fantastic tools, some of which are free as well, to do this entire work for them. And I think that is revolutionary. And I can't wait to see how the next 5 years will evolve this part.
So can you tell me about a time when you used this technology?
Since we are extremely process oriented in the companies that I've worked with, most of them have had very serious businesses with cybersecurity and all. In terms of copywriting, we couldn't really do that at my work. But then if at any time I'm, say, having to get a creative done, having to make a presentation really fast, I can just use these tools to make sure that my presentation looks immaculate. It gets the job done and also looks incredibly beautiful without, having to have a designer brain. In most of the profiles that I've worked with, this has come in incredibly handy when the designer has been unavailable and something needs to get turned around immediately. That's when I've used these tools without really understanding how Photoshop or any of those softwares work, and that's really helped, man. I mean, in getting quality looking designs, which makes it feel like some expert designers have done that, and I've been able to do it without really knowing much about how to.
So what's the blocker for using it externally? So I understand that you can make a design look nice and you can pad out a deck with some automated copy, but there's a problem there, right? So yes, you can do things quickly, but what is stopping your brand handing over the copywriting to AI?
So like I said, Tom, when you start off with something like this, and your company is much smaller, then you could easily replace your entire team. So especially for companies which have, say, a workforce of 0 to 10, this can be an incredibly useful tool, because for them, efficiency, speed of delivery is more important. But then because I've mostly worked in industries which are extremely serious, they would require a lot of copy checks. They would require a lot of specialization in the writer itself, which sometimes AI fails to provide. For example, when I was working in the cybersecurity industry, I was actually, it's very fortuitous that I was actually working with a player that used to create content for cybersecurity education as well. So whenever we were whipping up briefs or probably creating a social media copy, then it was easier to rely on a tool like this. But then when you're writing extremely technical content, say for the actual courseware, then you would need a couple of humans to get involved.
So I think there's a challenge there, isn't there? That yes, you can have an AI produce this content, but fundamentally it's not good enough and you need a human to augment it. So why not just get the human to write it in the first place?
Exactly. See, which is why what I said was, I'm really interested to see how this pans out in the next 5 years, because the way I look at it, it's very ironical that on one hand, with applications like TikTok and Instagram and a lot of others, and YouTube, of course, there's a huge creator economy which is getting created. People who are voluntarily leaving their jobs and moving to create their own companies, so to say, in terms of their Instagram identities or the YouTube channels. But then on the other hand, while the creator economy is rising, the ease with which you can create content in today's time, with blog writing and all, and unless you're doing an extremely specialized content creation, this AI tools, they just help you do that in a few seconds. And that, for them, at least for these people, these creators or these small time companies, I think it just helps them save a lot of time. So this irony is what really surprises me at the moment.
I think that the issue that I have is that for a small business, I run, there's 16, 17 of us now, and sure, time is in short supply. But the idea that just producing content quickly sounds appealing, but if it's the wrong content or it's not very good, then it's better not to have it at all. Because the issue with AI-driven content is you have to train the AI on the type of content to write. So you give the AI, like, I don't know, 1 million instances of copy or 1 billion or whatever your data set is. And what fundamentally it suggests is an aggregate of what has been before to suggest what should be in the future. So yes, all right, write a blog post about takeaway food. So what it'll do, look at all the previous blogs about takeaway food or whatever it is, and it will spew out a blog post. However, that is a regurgitation of everything that's been before. And quality content is something that is produced that challenges or is some way different or better than what has been before, hence its value. So my issue is that certainly for a business like mine or a similar one, if you have an AI that could just churn out a blog post based on what has been before, all you're going to be left with is a version of what has been before without the core thing that really matters, which is the view of my business or the person writing that content, the individuality of the person. So I'm just curious to know how you think that AI will get around that in the future, that it's brilliant at replicating the past in order to suggest the future, but it is removing the one thing that is exciting about content, which is the people who are creating it.
As somebody, Tom, who's literally started his career with content, and that too when I thought content writing was literally the only skill I could have, because I didn't come with an engineering degree, and since I'm from India, literally everybody I see is an engineer. So for somebody who's had content literally start my career, I really relate to what you just said. And that's why I like to add that creating content for your business directly as a, let's just call it a saleable, asset, as a sellable asset is probably just one of the uses for which I think AI is not good enough as of this moment. But then there are several other uses, right? And content is just one piece of it. Let's say even if your business is really specialized writing, and for that, of course, when you're creating something of an asset like a white paper or an article or anything which you would rather use to sell or to even market your company, you might want to put in a lot of thought, which is great. But then there are also things like making sure that your Twitter account is active each day. That you're posting something regularly that is seemingly related to your work, and that also shows you as a thought leader. Things that a lot of people would want to hire a company for, which is to maintain their social brand, and make sure that even repetitive content, but then one that is trending is still maintained. Which is why I did allude to the creator economy when I said this. But the point is that the way I look at it is more from the angle of liberation, where it takes up all of these little bits of content that you still need to produce. Because if you say are not tweeting about 2 to 3 times a day, the Twitter algorithm will not push your... again, I mean, Twitter might be a bad example considering what's happening around. But still, in a generic... scenario, let's say the Twitter algorithm will not push your profile to more and more users if you're not tweeting consistently and regularly. And for somebody who's actually in the business and has to make business decisions all day, this might consume a lot of your time. But then with the use of AI for this bit of content, you could easily just spend, say, a half an hour max to plan your entire work week. Your entire work calendar as far as your online posting is concerned. Use AI to create content which is seemingly similar to what you would want to say anyway, given your brief to the AI, and then focus up your mind to really apply yourself to the things that really matter to your business. Like creating a really splendid white paper, or any other asset that would really showcase your skill, which is not dependent on the AI. But even then, using AI tools like Grammarly does, and the reason I use it without wanting to sound endorsing is because Grammarly is almost used as a synonym these days for any tool that can help your grammar be edited on the go. Tools like that will come in handy even if you're writing really specialized content for which you probably have worked for years or studied for years. But then the best part about this is that it really frees you up to do things that you would want to do. And again, this is just one application of it, right? Whether you would want to create a brief for even your designer to work on. I remember having to struggle with that at the start of my career, when I would want to communicate to the designer what I wanted to create, and then I would create a very bad looking sketch by myself using pen and paper, and that might not always be convincing enough for the designer, and then there would be some back and forth. But then now, using AI templates, I can literally just put things on paper within a few minutes and send it to the designer to create something which is attuned to our company's brand image, and also saves a lot of time in sharing brief to that individual. Were I doing this on a personal level, I might not even mind spending a few more minutes on the design just to, just to put that out there, because for a young business, then especially from the creator side, maybe speed would be more important than getting all the design intricacies in place that larger businesses would prefer to. So I'm just saying that we're as limited by our. The only thing that's limiting us is our imagination, as far as these tools are concerned.
Mihir, unfortunately, we need to leave it there. So if someone wants to get in touch with you about any of the topics we've discussed today, where would you like them to do that, and what makes a great outreach message to you?
I'm always active on LinkedIn, and I think that's where most people could get in touch with me. My profile is by my name, Mihir Haryal, and I'm not very active on Twitter because I can't really keep creating content all the time. But my Twitter handle again is Mihir Haryal, MIHIRHARYAL, and always happy to connect with people.
Mihir, thank you so much for your time.
Right. Thanks, Tom. Happy to be here.
Hi, just before you go, I'd really appreciate it if you could take the time to write a review of the shiny new Object podcast on Apple Podcasts or iTunes, whatever it's called these days, or whichever podcast provider you use. We're an indie podcast, so it would go a long way for us if you could just share the word and give us a bit of a support on those channels. That would just be fantastic. If you haven't got time, that's also cool. And yeah, if you could tell your colleagues about the podcast, and also, if possible, don't forget to subscribe. And I'd love to hear your feedback. If you'd like to speak on the podcast or be a guest, or you think I'm asking the wrong questions, anything, I'd be super interested to hear what you think. So please email me at tom@automatedcreative.net. That's TOM at, I'm not going to bother spelling it. Anyway, you'll work it out. Thanks so much.